It was dark when he was born, not just because it was night. It was dark in his world, for he was born, you see, with no speech, nor hearing, nor sight. He was born to a mother and father. Their second child, he was the son. His sister, 2 years older, was sickly though, and barely ever had fun. Each night his mother would pray to the spirits to help her 2 children in life, for she and her husband struggled on and on, but barely managed their plight. Then one night a creature came out from the woods. From a shadow and fauna emerged. The mother, she opened the door full of dread, and a voice from above could be heard. "I heard all your prayers, dear lady. I've come to offer a deal. I'll give your son sight and hearing and speech. In return, 3 conditions to seal. The first, you must never tell him of what transpires 'tween you and I. The second, you must banish your husband, and the third, well, your daughter must die." The mother, she slammed the door in its face. "Not a chance," she said. "Leave us alone." "I'll return 3 nights hence," she heard through the door, "for your son's chance at life, or he'll have none." 3 days and nights passed, the mother so worried and wild. What had the creature meant, she thought? Was it really a choice 'tween each child? On the 3rd night, the creature appeared once again. The mother had made her decision. "I accept," she said quietly, passing over a rag soaked in blood from a recent incision. "My daughter's heart and a lock of her hair," said she, "wrapped up in a bundle of leather. I'll never once speak of what transpires this night, and my husband is gone forever." The creature reached out and took the bundle, accepting his murderous fee. "Your boy's senses are now forever, unless you go back on our deal." As morning broke, the boy, he awakened. He could see. He let out a cry. He heard his own voice. What magic is this? He felt as though he could fly. Many a happy year went by, for the boy, at least, less so the mother. She knew what she'd done, but cherished the thought that her son was all hers to smother, with love and affection, with voice and with song. And then, of course, came the day when her son was full grown and said to his mum, "I no longer want to just play. I want to explore and see what life has to experience and to discover. I'll find my good fortune and send for you then. I love you, for you are my mother." The boy, now a man, he departed. He walked woodland and lakeside, and then he happened across a man in green robes who'd fallen down in the glen. The man in green had broken his leg. Our hero, he stopped to help. "Where can I help you to?" he asked. The green man let out a small yelp. "My bag, it's just there. I couldn't quite reach it. It's got what I need inside." "If you can pass it to me," he said, "I'll take you on a marvellous ride." Our hero looked round and picked up the bag and gave to the green man post-haste. The green man took a bottle and swigged it, and looked up. "Here, have a taste." In for a penny, in for a pound, our hero thought as he drank. Then strangely, both of their feet left the floor, and the ground below them both sank. The two men flew through clouds until a sky village they did find, sat on a large floating rock high above, all that they'd left behind. The king of the village, who ran the pub and looked as high as a kite, cried loudly, "We thought we'd lost you, my lad, and you a friend you bring here. Have a pint." The mystery of how these folks could fly was answered later that night. It turned out they were a cult, you see, that bargained for the power of flight. They bargained with, yes, you've guessed it, the spirit from the woods from before. In return for their powers, they had traded gold bullion, but empty now was their store. So off on a quest to where stories of treasure was told, in a cave full of ice and rock and snow, full of dragons and, yes, lots of gold. Our hero and his friends and their crew past sleeping dragons did creep, and arrived at a large Colosseum-type place where the queen of the dragons did sleep. At least, that's what they thought at first. But then the queen, she did rise. She raised up her head and took a deep breath as greed and bile filled her eyes. She let out a burst of furious flame, but suddenly it seemed to freeze. And just there and then, the forest spirit returned. With himself, he looked rather pleased. To our hero he offered a bargain. "Die or be saved," he did voice. "To be saved, though, you must kill all of your crew. That's it. That is your choice." Back in the village that floated up high, our hero returned with the gold. "I'm sorry to say that my crew, they all perished," he said, feeling his soul had been sold. Back at the windmill, a little while later, our hero's mum was quite damp. A flood had arrived and ruined her crops. All that was left was a boat and a lamp. A letter arrived that morning from her son saying, "Oh, mother, I am to be wed. Follow this map, drink this potion to join me in my new home where I've made my bed." The direction had told her to get to the tree that was wonky and dead and withering. A bit vague, but luckily for us she found it, then drank the drink she'd been given. As she flew through the sky, she pondered her actions, for she had tricked that old spirit, you see. The heart was from that of a bull in the field, and her daughter and husband had fled. The wedding, you see, was quite creepy. The bride-to-be, well, the subject was sore, was betrothed to our hero's best friend, who'd he'd murdered in the dragon's lair not long before. When mother arrived, she saw this young lass and gasped and thought, what a quandary, for it was her daughter, now grown and in love to her son. Was that crossing a boundary? If she confessed to what had transpired, her son would lose a sense. If she didn't, then her children would marry and breed and produce babies inbred and dense. "Wait," cried old mother, "this can't go ahead. She's your sister and he is your brother. I once tricked a spirit, which is one awful thing, but incest, well, that's quite another." Then there was a flash and burst of smoke, and the spirit arrived looking scary. "You lied to me. You must pay the price." And he looked what might get quite leery. "That's 2 senses you owe me," the spirit decreed. "I shall take both speech and sight." The man now went blind and mute in a flash, and the spirit, he gathered his might. And as for the daughter, well, she must now die. And a giant brass bull did appear, that encompassed the bride with a fire below, and 'twas obvious her death was near. Oh, by and by, the groom is a liar, the spirit now said. Yes, it's true. He murdered his crewmates to get all your gold. What you do about that's up to you. The spirit then vanished. The king and his cult turned on our hero, now shamed. He said, do not fear, you're one of us now, and your fate must be true to our ways. The king took his hand, and they flew up high, so on clouds they both did tread. The king smiled at the man, then let go of his hand. Our hero was given a shallow grave, his broken corpse slumped in a coffin. But as the earth was piled onto the lid, he could still hear his poor mother sobbing. He could hear the soil bury him now, but the sound of the shovels grew dim. He could hear naught but deafening silence until he could hear worms eating him.